What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 3 best tank builds in New World Season 10. This new update has shaken up the meta with new sets, reworked perks, and some of the wildest artifact synergies we've ever seen. No matter if you're playing Wars, OPR, PvE content, or the new Nighthaven raid, the meta is completely evolving. So today we are breaking down different builds, from Immortal Tower Shields and Flail Juggernauts to Greatsword Bruiser tanks and much more. I'll walk you through each build's playstyle, key perks, gear choices, and set combinations so you can dominate from the day 1 of the new season. The Sword and Shield with Warhammer build is the definition of immovable object paired with unstoppable force. This build turns you into the raid anchor, the living wall that not only holds the line, but smashes everything that stands in front of it. In Season 10, tanking is not just about soaking hits, it's about control, so dictating the pace, locking enemies in place, and making every swing count. And with this setup, you're going to feel like a walking earthquake wrapped in a plate steel. For attributes, we're running 300 strength and 200 constitution. This means you've hit the strength threshold for the maximum melee power, while keeping enough constitution to shrug off punishment that would otherwise kill most players in a second. The 300 strength breakpoint will give you that bonus to the heavy attack damage, which is perfect since both these weapons will thrive on big hits. And then the 200 constitution grants us 10% physical and elemental power, which is the baseline for a good tank status build. Next up, for the Sword and Shield tree, the main abilities is the Upheaval, the Shield Rush and Defender's Resolve. Upheaval will give you Explosive Burst and the Stagger, which is perfect for opening fights or punishing bosses in mid-animation. Then Shield Rush is your go-to engage and debuff tool. It applies Weaken, Fortify and helps to keep threats rolling. And then Defender's Resolve is the cornerstone of the build. You pop it at the start of big boss mechanics, or when your healers will start checking their phone mid-fight. It grants 30% damage reduction and taunts everything nearby. You can stack it with a tower shield and you're basically a walking fortress, so nothing can get through you unless you let it. Important perk here is the Fortifying Shield Rush. If it's not on your shield, then get it on your chest piece, as that 25% fortify is not negotiable for the endgame tanking. And then on the other hand, for the Warhammer tree, we're taking Armor Breaker, the Shockwave and Clear Out. Armor Breaker is exactly what it sounds like, a huge single target smash that strips 15 to 20% of the enemy's armor. Bosses will hate it and DPS will love it. Shockwave gives you aerial control. You slam the ground and everything gets staggered, and they will look at you like you just ruined their day. Then Clear Out is your spacing tool, letting you reposition mobs and reassess control over messy pulls. Together, these three skills will keep the battlefield under control. With passives, we focus on the Aftershock, Resurgence and the Power Through the Pain, as they will give you stamina back, add healing, and reward you for taking hits like a champ. Now for the armor, we go full heavy. Season's 10 meta will favor tanks who can stand through the dot phases and elemental bursts, and heavy armor gives you the effective HP to do it. You want to aim for Enchanted Ward and Elemental Aversion on every piece, with Health or Refreshing as your flex perk. If you're running mutated dungeons, then keep of course different ward sets, so Angry Earth, Corrupted and Ancient wards are your lifeline. And don't forget about the Soul Heart on your Void Darkblade chest. The stamina and healing boosts under 50% HP will turn near deaths into the clutch recoveries. Then on jewelry, we prioritize a protection perk on your amulet, nature or void depending on the dungeon, plus divines and the health. For your ring, the blood drinker or the slash damage with the hardy and the leeching is perfect. And then on the rings, fortifying toast, refreshing toast and regeneration are the holy trinity of sustain. For your heart rune, the stalwart form is the go-to. You can pop it mid-fight to gain fortify and stabilize during chaotic moments, or just swap to the divine form if you need AoE control for the mobs. Then gems will matter here too. Onyx is the sword and hammer for the open world. You can swap to the elemental wards for mutated expeditions. Taunting gems are must-have, and for consumables, the ward potions, honing stones and the food. So you always should have the strength or constitution meal ready. And then finally, your rotation is super simple. Start with the Defender's Resolve to grab aggro, then Shield Rush in for Weaken, then Upheaval for the Tread, then swap to the Warhammer, then Shockwave the group, then Armor Break the Elite, then Clear Out and rinse and repeat. This is a Sword and Shield with the Flail build. This setup defines the new frontline meta for Season 10. You're not anymore just holding ground, you're actually dictating space, tempo and punishment. This combo gives you unmatched control, sustain and crowd pressure, by turning you into a hybrid juggernaut that can anchor a team or fight outnumbered and still come out on top. Running 300 strength and 200 constitution means that you're sitting right on the sweet spot. We get maximum melee scaling, solid base defenses, and enough stamina economy to keep swinging. The 300 strength breakpoint will buff your heavy attack damage, which synergizes perfectly with the upheaval and the arcane smite, and then the 200 constitution keeps you stable against burst windows by giving you 10% physical and elemental mitigation bonus that every tank needs in a high tier content. Then for the sword and shield tree, the core skills is the upheaval, leaping strike, and the shield rush. Upheaval will deliver massive AoV damage and the tread, while scaling directly with your strength and often critting for ridiculous numbers. Then leaping strike gives you that sudden engage or escape tool. It's pretty much a burst gap closer that doubles as animation cancel when timed right. Then shield rush is the star of the show. It applies both weakened and slow, even through the block. And when you stack it with the fortifying shield rush, you're gaining 25% fortify on activation. That buff window lets you pivot into the upheaval or even block cancel, while being almost unkillable. You want refreshing move and the trench hand trend on your sword, ideally paired with a split gem like Aerial or the Malachite rune class, to balance the slash mitigation and elemental scaling. However, if you're lucky enough to get the Hoplite longsword, then it's an incredible choice for this setup, thanks to its built-in refreshing move and the critical sustain. And then on the other hand, for the Flail tree, your active skills is the Arcane Smite, Arcane Eruption, and the Trip. Arcane Smite is your opening strike. It applies Deflective Frailty, weakening the enemy's armor and setting up follow-up combos. Arcane Eruption explodes with AoV nature's damage and leaves a lingering field that punishes clumped up enemies, while building impaired stacks. Then there's the Trip, which is one of the most slept on CC tools in the game. You can chain lightning, then attack, then use Trip, then another light attack, and then eruption, to trigger alternating enhancement if you're using the named Flail Heavy Chain. That perk gives you 10% base damage bonus back, and going between abilities and basic attacks feels amazing once you master the rhythm. However, if you prefer a smoother scaling option, then Odo with the ultimate enhancement will still work, but you will lose a bit of the gem flexibility. Then run the full heavy armor for this build. Freedom and conditioning are your friends. A 5p shrinking heals, configurating keeps you mobile even under pressure. You can prioritize the haste to the vigor whenever possible for that bonus speed and the dot reduction. Then also stack the slash conditioning twice to soften the sword and shield and the flail bursts, and get the vital synergy on the chest to add sustain when your group will play aggressive. If you're pushing wars or OPR, you can mix in Enchanted Ward or the Freedom to hit that 50% CC reduction cap. Then for jewelry, your amulet should have Divine Health and a protection type that fits your matchup. Slash or Trust are go-tos. Then the ring should be Hardy, Invigorated Punishment, and a Healing Breeze to synergize with the hybrid damage profile, and remember, you are dealing slash, strike, and nature damage all at once. And finally, for your earring, you should always include Refreshing Toast, Regenerating, and the Fortifying Toast for that triple layer sustain. Next up we have Rotation, and you want to open with the Arcane Smite to apply debuffs. Then follow with a Trip into Eruption, then swap to the Sword and Shield, and use Shield Rush to stagger and weaken, and then immediately activate Upheaval. If they're still standing, then Leaping Strike will close the distance for the finisher. Every action in this chain will either way buff you, debuff enemies, or heal a chunk of your health. In Season's 10 meta of very fast swaps and the burst trades, this build gives you control, pressure, and infinite sustain, which is a perfect balance for a tank and executioner. This is a Greatsword with Sword and Shield hybrid tank build. In a simple summary, this is a powerhouse of a combination that gives you both massive DPS and a complete battlefield control. You're running 200 constitution and around 300 strength that puts you right at the heart of the tank meta for Season 10. The Greatsword gives you the pure tread and the great uptime, while the Sword and Shield provides team-wide buffs, powerful debuffs, and personal sustain that makes you feel unkillable even in the thickest pulls. At 300 constitution, you will gain full grit on your heavy and the light melee attacks, which is a massive quality of life bonus that lets you keep swinging through the stunts and the knockdowns. You also get stronger healing from the consumables, more base health, and 10% extra armor across the board, and that's why this breakpoint is the golden rule for the tanks. And then the remaining strength ensures that your damage and the threat generation will stay competitive. On the Greatsword, you're running Relentless Rush, Calamity Counter, and the Roaring Rupture. This combination makes the Greatsword a perfect offhand weapon for both control and mitigation. Relentless Rush gives you mobility, cleave, and instant engage that helps you to tag enemies before they even reach your backline. Then the Calamity counter is the reactive core of this weapon. A parry not only reduces incoming damage, but also triggers a massive counter strike and cleanses debuffs when timed right. Then there's the Roaring Rupture, your crowd control nuker. It taunts, weakens and applies grid generation, while giving you Fortify. This skill alone can stabilize entire rooms of mobs or lag down players in PvP. For passives, we want the Crosscut Fortification and the Onslaught stance, so you're gaining damage reduction while dishing out non-stop shuds. And then switching to the Sword and Shield, and this is where your utility truly shines. This setup here is the Whirling Blade, Upheaval and the Shield Rush. Whirling Blade gives you AoV cleave with the built-in rend, which means it shreds armor and builds aggro fast. Then Upheaval, borrowed from the Greatsword's theme, will scale beautifully with the Shanked and guarantee a burst of shred while resetting some cooldowns through the passives. Then Shield Rush, of course, is your engage and control ability. It applies weaken and slow even through the blocks. And when paired with the Fortifying Shield Rush, you gain 25% Fortify instantly. Combine that with the Defender's Resolve when needed, and you've got layers of mitigation that stack well into the 60 to 70% range during very high endgame content. Now let's talk gear. You're going full heavy armor. And then Enchanted Ward and Refreshing on every piece are non-negotiable. You want 5 stacks of the Slash condition to hard counter Great Axes and the Greatsword damage. And then the Vital Synergy can be added for the extra group sustain if you are running coordinated content. For the chest, you can slot your weapon specific perks like the Sudden Upheaval or the Contagion Upheaval if you can. And if you're using a Greatsword's artifact like the Butcherer, then it's an excellent fit for this build. It brings the raw damage and the bleed pressure that helps you to keep aggro while charging your Heart Rune faster. Next, on Jewelry, the amulet should have health, protection and divine or refreshing, depending on your comfort. The ring should run hearty, leeching and the keen awareness, which gives you better stamina sustain, and a bit of self-healing on every swing. For the earring, refreshing regeneration and the spite are the dream combo. They will let you tank longer without ever relying on healers. And now for rotation. In defensive setups, we open with a Shield Rush to apply debuffs, then pop the Stone Form or Defender's Resolve for the safety, then Upheaval to pull cooldowns together. You can chain into the heavy and light attack combos for the grid uptime and use Roaring Rupture whenever adds will start flooding in. And then for the offensive rotation, we open this time with the Greatsword, so Relentless Rush in, trigger Calamity counter to absorb damage, and swap to the Sword and Shield, then use the Whirling Blade then the Upheaval to spike damage and hold aggro. And from here just spam light and basic attacks, and repeat the same rotation all over again.